Alright, welcome to the last video for this tutorial series where we'll be building a full stack chat application that will be based on ChatGPT. We'll build the chat functionality in two ways. So the first part will be on the backend where we'll interact with OpenAI. Then we'll start by building a server. After building a server, then we'll create the endpoints and then put in the OpenAI functionality that we have already done before. We'll put it into the endpoint that we created so that the front end can interact with it. They'll move to the front end and then we'll do what we've done before. We'll just create a form. We will call a function when the form is submitted. But this time around, instead of interacting with OpenAI directly, we'll be interacting with our backend, which helps us to interact with the OpenAI and returns a response for us to display. So let's just get started. And what the first thing we want to do is to create or set up the project. So first things first, let's create a folder for the backend. So make dir, we'll just call it backend. It's the backend after all. All right, now cd into the backend, cd into backend, and then first things to do, initialize the project. So npm init, we've done all this before, so this should be easy. Init, it creates this file for us. Yeah, now inside of here we want to add the type so that we will be able to use ES6 module imports. And all right, so that is it. We can now can close this off now. So next thing is to install OpenAI, install cores, install body parser, and one more thing to install. Let's install Express, of course. So we already know OpenAI cores is cores, body parser, Express. These are all Nodejs related. So you should know all this by now. So we just hit enter. Cores is used to make sure that there's free flow of communication between the front end and the back end, even if they are on different domains, stuff like that. The body parser is used to pass the message or carry the message, bundle it for the backend to use. And Express is used to make Node.js better, so you can easily create something like a server with the extra functionalities that Express gives you. So it's done installing. So we will now create a file, touch index.js. Of course, this is where all our code will live. So we'll jump into the file, and first thing to do is to import everything that we have put in here. Everything we'll be doing now is something we already know. So let's hit the road. OpenAI, we're importing configuration, and we're importing OpenAI API. All right, so the next one, want to import Express from Express. That is it, Express from Express. The next one, we want to import cores from cores, like that. So it's just like that. Then the last one, we want to import body parser. We're importing body parser from body parser. Spell that correctly. All right. Next thing, let's initialize these things and set them up. So the first one, we want to initialize express and set it to app. The second one, we want to set up a port to listen to port. So this can be anything basically. So I'll just set my own to I don't know if this 8000 is in use, but let's set it to 8000. If it's in use, I'll have to change it. Okay, just to be on the safer side, let's do 80. This should be free. Then the next one is to use body parser. So app.use body parser.json, yeah, and then let's also set up calls. So app.use, you put calls like that, and that is done with that. Next thing is to set up our configuration. All right, so const configuration. So notice that the C is is in lowercase, so it's different from the new configuration that we do here. So we'll set the organization, set it to our organization, and then API key, set it to the API key. So we'll just jump into here, new window, and platform, here move to API key. I still have some API key, but I can just get rid of these ones and create a new one for this project. Oh, well, full stack tutorial. So create and copy. Now that we have created this, we can now delete this other one. All right, now let's paste the API key here. This is just what we've done before, so I'm sure it shouldn't be difficult. Just in case you're confused about anything, refer to my former videos, the second and the third one especially in this series. All right, then the last thing we want to do now is to set up a new instance of OpenAI API. All right, equal to new OpenAI API, and then we pass in the configuration that we have just set up here. Configuration. All right, that is that. All right, let's close off this one, so that I'll have enough room and you see what we are doing here. And okay, let's set up the server to be running first, then we'll come back to create the endpoint. So app.listen, so this takes in two parameters, that is the port that we want to listen to and the callback function. So this callback function is where we will now write something telling maybe the user that, hey, we are now listening, or your server is now running, something like this. So you can do, let's log to the console, and we'll say let's use backticks and say listening on port. So we'll dynamically add the ports that we are listening to support. So this will make it easy for us to just effect changes anywhere. So if we change this port here, everything changes. So let's save that and clear the console. Now let's run this file by saying node index. Hit enter. Beautiful. It's listening on port 8080, and that means that 8080 is free. So we come back. Let's come back to our code here. All right. Now here in our code, we now want to create a post endpoint or a post API, as the case may be. So we'll do app.posts. This is Node.js related. So these are basic Node.js, where I have some other tutorials on how to build a server and how to build an application using Node.js. You can check those out. I'll try to leave a link in the description for you to follow. All right. Now here we'll first of all set the URL. So what happens is anything we enter here would be used as part of the endpoint or the URL that will direct us to the endpoint. But for this, we don't want to enter anything here. Just the slash is fine, since we are not building any other thing aside from this. And we want to make this callback function an asynchronous one. And of course, it takes in two parameters, which is the request and response. All right. Request and response. Then we are set to go. We are now set. Yeah. So first thing to do inside of here is to get whatsoever is sent from the front end down into this endpoint. So we can get that inside of the body parser, the request body. So requests dot body, everything is inside of this request body. And so what we would need to do is to destructure whatsoever comes from here and pick what we want. So what we want is the charts. We'll be sending the charts into here. It will be an array. So whenever it comes, we receive it this way. All right, then let's come down and move straight to now interacting with the OpenAI create chart completion. All right, so we'll set it to results. Whatever we're doing, we want to set it to results. So we'll not be using the then catch block here. We'll just move straight to interacting and saving whatever the result of our interaction is inside of the result variable. So OpenAI dot create chart completion. We've done all this. Just in case you are confused about anything, please refer to the other videos. So model, set it to GPT 3.5 turbo. Then for the messages here, we set it to an array of messages. So the first message will be that of the system message, in which we have we have row equal to system, and then we can now have content telling the ChatGPT what it's going to do for us or what it represents. So we tell it you are ebere GPT, you can write emails and letters. All right, then after this we'll now pass in the charts. We'll now destructure them like this, spread it out charts. So these charts we got from here, we're now passing it here. So this becomes an array of charts or messages. And that is that for that. We will now return a response. So we have this helps us interact with OpenAI and gives us a particular result. So let's now return a response. So here we'll just do response.json, and inside of this response we show an output. So output, and the output will be results dot data, just the way we've done it before, dot choices, and we are taking the first index dot message. Beautiful. That is it. Format it so that it looks good, and basically that's all we need to create this endpoint. So let me run you through what we've done here. So we began by importing everything we need: OpenAI, Express, cause, and body parser. Then we set up Express and called it app. We also set up the ports that we need. We used body parser and cause. Body parser is used to get input from the request body and then pass it down for processing. Cause helps a free flow of communication between the front end and the back end without interruption, even if they are on different domains. Then we set up the configuration and set up a new OpenAI instance here. Here we are now creating an endpoint. Now this endpoint will be the base endpoint. We don't need to add any other thing after the endpoint or the URL. It gets the charts that we'll send from the front end, after which we come here and then interact with OpenAI.chat completion. Of course, we pass in the model and pass in the messages that are required. Then here in the results, we now have everything that has been returned to us. We now want to return to the front end something. So we now send a response to the front end from here. And what we are sending is the message that will contain the row and the content of whatsoever has been sent. So the front end sends in a request, this back end sends out a response. That's it basically. And finally, there is a port listening. So this means that wherever I am inside of my computer, I can interact with this endpoint or this server from here. So I will now restart my server, see if everything is still working. So node index hits, and that is still working. Next thing we will do now is to open let's open Postman. See if we can open a new window of Postman here. All right, so keep this by the side. I just need a new workspace. Okay, let me open one of my workspaces. All right, just open here, and so what I need is to say local server sorry, let me get this if I would do that correctly. So 3,000. Okay. All right. Okay, so I don't mess up anything here. So it's 80, and then we are doing a post request. You will recall that this is supposed to be a post request here. So this is a post endpoint. So back here we'll just do posts as the verb, and then in the request body it expects us to pass in chats. So I'll just make this a little bigger, all right, so that you can see what I'm doing here. So hopefully this is big enough. All right, chats, and this is supposed to be an array of messages, if you recall. Then we'll pass in a message, so row, and the row will be user, then content. So we can just say hello. Just let's be sure everything is working. So we have entered the endpoint URL, we have entered the verb, and then here we have entered the requested data here in the request body. So we'll just hit send. We'll just hit send and then see what happens. So when we hit send, we'll wait for a response, and let me reduce this so that we can see exactly what we get. So this is what we get. I hope you're able to see what I'm doing here. Okay, so let me zoom in a bit. All right, so this is it. This is what we get: output and the row, which is assistance, and then content. So which means the endpoint is working perfectly, and so we can close this off and return here. So since this is working now, we now have to move to the front end in order for us to be able to connect to the back end. So the first thing we want to do at this level is to create a front-end project like we did in the last video. So for us to do that, we'll do npm create vit. Make sure you're using the latest. Hit enter, and we'll just say that the project is front end. Hit enter. We are using React. Hit enter, and we are using JavaScript. Hit enter. You can just copy these 3 lines of command after you're done and paste it. This will install. This will navigate into the front end folder that we just created, install the dependencies, and run the development server. So hit enter, and the commands are running. So our focus will be here on app.jsx file. All right, so I'll just drag this down while the installation is going on, and then we'll just clear everything that's inside of this file. Notice that it is done and the local server is up here. We can just test it just to be clear. So new window and 127, I already have that there. So hit enter, and here we are. So we won't be spending a lot of time here because these are things we've done before. Where we'll be focused on is on calling the endpoint that is required. So what I'll just do is to get like a bunch of code and paste here in the app.jsx file, because we've done all this before and I wouldn't want to bore you with that details. So I wouldn't like to start maybe typing these things again. So let's get it. Let me copy this and then I'll just paste it here. All right. So when you come here, you notice that almost everything here is exactly what we did in the last session, in the last video. We imported React like we in the last video, but this time around we are no longer importing OpenAI because OpenAI is being handled for us here in the back end, and we are now merging powers with the back end in order to build something more concrete. So we are not importing this line here, and that is why there is no need to install OpenAI at this front end, because it's there in the back end and we are using it from there. Then we set up the use states, the different states that we need. That is the message, the chart, and the is typing. Then inside of the charts here, this is a function that will be called each time the form is submitted. So what we are doing is just what we've done before: prevent default, and if there is no message, don't submit anything. Then set its type into true, and then update the charts with the new message that has been entered. Clear the input field, but we are now alerting the message just as a placeholder until we start writing the next code. Then inside of the return statement here, we are returning the main element, and our heading now is full stack chat AI tutorial. We are here rendering the chart just as we did in the first part, in the last part. We are also rendering a typing text if typing is true, that is if the AI is already creating a response for us. And finally, there is a form here, just like in the last session too. What the form is doing here is just the same thing: takes in an input, updates the message state, and then when you hit enter, it calls this chart functionality, so the chat function. And that is it. That is basically everything you already know. So what we'll do is just test out and see what's going on here. So we'll go back to our browser, new window, 127. So it's hello. All right, and here you have it. You have the alert state text there. Can you design a logo for me? Hit enter and you see it alerts you here. Okay. By the way, you can also see the typing text here each time you do send a message. So you hit enter and the typing is there. So that's it. We'll just close this off, and now we'll come back here, and we want to now add the main functionality. We want to call the endpoint that we have created. So for us to do that, we'll use fetch. So we'll get rid of this alert, and then we use fetch. We are fetching from, let me get the URL, localhost 8080. just so we are sure we are getting everything correct. So it's 80. All right, so this is the first argument, and so the second argument would be it would be an object. So inside of this object we put in the method, which is post, and we put in the body, the headers, and that will be it for that. So in the body we can put in JSON.stringify here, JSON.stringify, and then inside of the JSON.stringify we'll just pass in the charts. Remember that here in the index.js file we are expecting the charts array here, so we'll just pass in these charts that we have here, pass it down here, charts, and then before here we want to put the headers. In the headers we'll just pass in the contents, we just pass in the content type, and then we'll set it to application /JSON. So these are all basic JavaScript, and it shouldn't be difficult to grasp, right? So my video is off, so let's put that at the right place. All right, now this is what you need to basically set up a fetch request. Once you have set up the method, the headers, and the body, then you are really set to go. So what we'll now do is to use a .then block to get our response. So we'll come here, get rid of this, and say .then. Here it returns a response, and so we set it to response.json. So just to make it readable, then we do another .then. So this is where we now process the data that we get back. So data. Now inside of here we'll do just exactly what we've done in the other part. We'll update the messages array. Just in case you're confused about anything we are doing in this video, please refer to the last video. Everything we are doing here, we've done it in the last video, apart from calling this endpoint, and that's why we are here calling the endpoint. So messages.push. So what are we pushing in? We are pushing in this data that we have received. Recall that there is an output inside of the data. So when you come back to the index.js file here in the back end, you come down here, notice that the response you get here is response.json, and it passes in this message that we get here into the output. So the same thing here, when we are receiving it here, we are now receiving data, and inside of the data there is an output. So we just add it to the bunch of messages there, and then update the charts with the set of messages that we have, and of course set is typing to false, because of course we are done. At the beginning we set is typing to true, just to show the user that we are fetching a message from the backend. Now the last thing to do here is to catch whatsoever that is an error that we might get along the way. So error, and log to the console whatsoever you get. Let's get rid of this and put error here. Just format it to look clean, and that is it. So save it. Now that should be set. Let's now go and test it out. Let's go to our browser. So all right, here in the browser, new window. Okay, 127, hit enter. Let's see if it works. Hello, hit enter, and yes, it gives us what we are looking for. Hello, how can I assist you? So let's say, who are you? Hit enter, and let's see what it tells us. Language model, I'm designed to assist you in writing emails, letter, articles, and more. How may I assist you? Yes. We can say, how are you? Of course, we know the answer it will give us. How are you? Yeah, see, it doesn't have feeling, but I'm functioning optimally. All right, so this is working perfectly, but of course, like we did in the last video, this will look nicer if we can add some CSS. We have added some classes, by the way, some classes here in the p tag. So let's close this up so that we can see this properly. We have added this class when the role is user, what to do. So this basically will move the user to this other side, that is the right side, and keep the assistant or the AI in this other side. Then here we are also hiding this div. We're hiding it whenever the AI is not typing. So when it's typing, we remove the class so that it shows typing. If not, we hide it, and that is it. I'll just grab a bunch of CSS and paste here in the index.css file. But first off, we'll get rid of this. Get rid of everything here in the index.css file. Also, also get rid of everything here in the app.css file. Yeah, save it. Then let's get back to the index.css file. I'll just get this CSS. I already have it. I won't bore you with writing CSS, so just copy and paste it here. Then everything should be fine. Save it, and then let's go back and test what we've done. Let's see how it comes out. All right, so 127, beautiful. So if you now look at what we have here, we now have the heading and we'll have our input. So when we do hello, hit enter. Now the message from the user would always be on the right side, and the message from the AI will be on this right side. Notice also that each time you send a message, it shows typing down here, and that is working perfectly. So something else we can do, like we did in the last video, is to make sure that our application scrolls each time there is a new message. So close this off. All right, we can add that here each time there's a new message. So scroll to, So we're using scroll to, and the first thing is the x-axis, which we'll set to 0. So we don't want it to scroll horizontally, we want it to scroll vertically. So instead of setting a particular height, we want to set it to infinity, so that will make sure it scrolls down to the end. So 1e10, this will set it to infinity and it scrolls down to the end. So we'll do this in 2 places. We'll do this here, that is when we send a message, and we also do this when we receive a message down here. Make sure it formats so that it looks good, and you save. Then you come down here, open a new window. Let's test. This should be the final test, I hope so. Save it and say hello. We can add here, okay, let's type in something wise. So can you write an email for me? Hit enter. Then we can say, can you design a logo for me? Hit enter. Now you see how it scrolls on its own. Yeah, you don't have to scroll it now. So immediately it comes up like this. It's immediately the message comes, it comes up like this, and continuously like that. So you can say, what can you do? Hit enter. It will come up as soon as it gets the new message. All right, so that is it. This is basically it. Now this might have taken a little more work than we did in the first and second video, but you will notice that why it took more work, this is more secured, because we now do our interaction down there. Our interaction with the OpenAI, we do it down there in the server, which is not exposed to the browser. You will also notice that instead of just having a CLI tool, we now have a well secured and intuitive and attractive user interface, instead of what we used to have at the beginning. So this is far more better. And so what more can you do? What you can do now is to check out the documentation. What we have done is the basics of using the AI tool, OpenAI and ChatGPT, but it is more than what we have done. You can do a lot more here. Let me run down to the documentation, open it. So when you open the documentation here, there is so much more that you can do. Like I said, there's text completion, there's image generation, there's fine-tuning, embeddings, and things like this. So I've shown you how to use the chat completion. This is what we just did. So try to check out other endpoints here. There's that for audio, there's that for files. All these endpoints are open and free to use. You already have, by default, you have some money. You have some money here. Where is that? Yeah, okay, come down to your usage here. I've really used this, but the usage is not as large as you think. I've been using this for quite a while, and out of the $5, I have not even used up to $0.1. So you can do a lot of testing here, and you still be fine. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'll do just as I enjoyed making it. I would add links to the description so that you see the full code, what I've been able to do. If you are running into any bug, don't worry. Once you compare the code, you'll be able to fix it. And that is it for this video. I hope to see you more in other videos. Please do not forget to subscribe, share, and please tell others about what you have learned from here. If you find this very helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.